Do you ever feel like a tightrope walker, stretched on the wire of your own expectations, struggling to maintain a precarious balance against the changing winds of life? This constant tension, this feeling of having to control everything, anticipate everything. Is this merely a characteristic of our times or the symptom of something deeper? A soul struggling to breathe, a psyche searching for its center. Have you ever felt that inner saturation, that overload of effort which, paradoxically, seems to keep you stuck, or even bog you down further? As if the harder you try, the darker the horizon becomes and the emptier your hands feel. And what if this relentless struggle, this desire to control everything, was precisely what's holding you back? It's a bold perspective, almost counterintuitive in our society that values constant action. Yet the great psychologist Carl Jung offered us this essential truth. When you stop trying to force things, everything starts to work. A phrase that resonates like a call to forgotten wisdom, a whisper to the soul, a key from the depths of the human psyche. Today, together, we're going to explore this subtle trap of control. We'll delve into the heart of this mechanism with the timeless depth and relevance of Carl Jung's psychology, which offers us unique keys to understanding our psyche and its vast territories from the personal to the collective unconscious. This journey isn't just an intellectual quest. It's an invitation to profound transformation, to liberation. Because letting go, from a Jungian perspective, isn't about giving up, but about reclaiming oneself. A crucial step on the path of individuation, a key to true peace, and an existence where things, finally, begin to work, as if by an inner resonance, or rather, through alignment with the self. Why this almost universal tendency to want to control everything? Why this relentless effort to force destiny, to mold reality according to our sometimes feverish desires? The roots of this need for control often run deep into our personal history, into our unconscious, that vast reservoir of repressed experiences, unfulfilled potential, and psychic energies. Fear is undoubtedly the most obvious root. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, fear of loss, fear of not being good enough. These fears, often lurking in the shadow of our psyche, that part of us Jung invites us to explore and integrate, push us to build fortresses of control. We mistakenly believe that if we master every detail, we can avoid suffering. It's our ego, this agency of consciousness, which in its quest for security and preservation tries to lock down the unpredictable flow of life, fearing being overwhelmed by the contents of the unconscious or the challenges of the world. Added to this are unrealistic expectations, those we harbor for ourselves, often stemming from personal complexes or the influence of archetypes, these universal patterns that shape us unknowingly. We set unattainable standards of perfection for ourselves, and the slightest deviation becomes a source of anxiety, reinforcing the need to control everything. Think of those times you've felt your inner radar on high alert, scanning every atmosphere, every reaction, trying to anticipate in order to avoid pain. This tension is a sign that the ego is overinvested, disconnected from the regulating resources of the self. And then there's this incessant quest for external validation, often linked to a persona, the social mask we present to the world that is too rigid or overdeveloped at the expense of our authenticity. We seek approval in the eyes of others that we believe will fill an inner void. This need to please, to be recognized, leads us to overinvest, to strive relentlessly for results that we hope will bring us this recognition. But it's a bottomless pit if the connection to our own intrinsic worth, to ourself, is missing. Jung spoke of the soul, the psyche, as a living entity within us, endowed with immense energy, libido, in the broad sense of vital energy. When the ego, with its thirst for control, dominates and cuts itself off from the messages of the unconscious, it constricts the soul. Imagine a flower prevented from opening, forced to bloom on a precise schedule, under artificial light. It would lose its vitality, its color, its unique fragrance. Our soul, likewise, withers under the yoke of excessive control. It needs space, trust, the ability to breathe at life's own rhythm to truly flourish, to guide us towards our process of individuation, that unique path to the realization of our totality, our self. The consequences of this relentless effort are multiple and insidious. Physical and mental tension becomes our default state, creating energetic blockages in our psyche and consequently, in our lives. These blockages sometimes manifest as symptoms, disturbing dreams, or an existential fatigue. Emotionally, constant worry becomes a kind of background noise, a misdirected psychic energy that, like a magnet, seems to draw more situations to us that reflect our own inner constriction. It's as if the unconscious, through external events or our inner states, is trying to show us what is out of balance. Energy no longer flows, creativity dries up, joy diminishes. We feel saturated, overflowing with a diffuse anxiety, carrying a weight that isn't always ours, but that of our fears projected onto the world, of our unrecognized shadow. So, what does letting go truly mean from a Jungian perspective? It's crucial not to confuse this powerful concept with passivity or resignation. Letting go isn't throwing in the towel. It's recognizing the ego's limits. It's allowing a vaster wisdom, that of the self, to come into play. It's redefining our relationship with action. There's a fundamental difference between acting from the ego and acting in alignment with one's deepest being. Acting constructively means taking actions that emerge from inner listening, from a dialogue with our unconscious, perhaps through our dreams, intuitions, or synchronicities. Jung showed us that the unconscious is not just a receptacle for the repressed, but also a source of wisdom and guidance. Letting go comes into play when the ego, after having done its part consciously and responsibly, accepts not controlling everything, leaving room for the unknown, for the way the global psyche will orchestrate things. This detachment isn't coldness, but a necessary humility for the individuation process to unfold. It's understanding that life is a mystery greater than our conscious plans. Jung speaks to us of inner power, of this immense force that resides at the heart of our psyche, symbolized by the archetype of the self, the organizing center of the personality. Letting go is a conscious renunciation by the ego of its illusory omnipotence. It's not an admission of weakness, but a recognition of the self's superior wisdom. It is in this defeat of the ego that lies an immense strength, the one that allows the shift from external validation to deep inner trust, rooted in connection with our totality. It's starting to draw one's security no longer from the illusory control of the external world, but from the certainty of this inner guide's presence. When we are constantly worrying, trying to force things, we are in a posture where the ego dominates, where our psychic energy is tensed up. This inner state shapes our perception of the world and can even influence the types of experiences we attract or create. Worry is a kind of sterile rumination that blocks the creative flow of the psyche. Letting go, on the other hand, is about radically changing this internal dynamic. It's allowing the ego to become more flexible, to become a servant of the self rather than a tyrant. It's about adopting an attitude of, I do my part consciously, and I open myself to what life, through the manifestations of my unconscious and external events, offers me. And I trust myself to welcome what comes, knowing that even difficulties can carry meaning for my evolution. It's a declaration of trust in the deep processes of the psyche, a faith in the soul's ability to find its way. Psychic energy can then flow more freely, fostering growth and flourishing. This inner transformation, this shift from egoic control to trust in the self, has concrete and often surprising repercussions on our external reality. How does this work from a Jungian perspective? Firstly, it's a form of psychic harmonization. Jung conceived of the psyche as an energetic system. When energy is blocked by complexes, fears, or an overly rigid ego, it creates tension and imbalance. Letting go allows this energy to flow again, to redistribute itself more harmoniously. By ceasing to resist, by welcoming what emerges from the unconscious, we allow the psyche to self-regulate. What we project onto the external world then changes because our inner world is undergoing reorganization. This change in inner posture often leads to a spectacular unblocking of situations, marked by the emergence of synchronicities. Jung defined synchronicity as a causal coincidence between an inner psychic state, a dream, thought, emotion, and an external event. These happy accidents aren't so accidental after all. They are manifestations of the interconnectedness between the psyche and the world, signs that we are in tune with an underlying order, perhaps that of the collective unconscious or the self. When the ego lets go of its will to direct everything, it creates the necessary space for these meaningful correspondences to occur, guiding us and confirming that we are on a meaningful path. Life then seems to bring us what we need for our growth. Letting go also invites us to embrace our authenticity, which is at the heart of the Jungian individuation process. It's about becoming who we truly are in our totality by consciously integrating the different parts of ourselves, including the shadow, those aspects of our personality we deem unacceptable and have repressed. When we are no longer obsessed with controlling a perfect image, the persona, we dare to follow the creative impulses of the unconscious, to listen to the whispers of our intuition. By ceasing to fight against who we are, by accepting our imperfections as part of our unique humanity, we unleash immense power and creativity. We enter the flow of our own becoming. It is no longer the intellect alone, or the ego that directs, but a vaster wisdom, that of the self, which expresses itself through symbols, dreams, and deep feelings. We learn to feel, to be attentive to inner and outer signs, rather than over-analyzing. And in this presence, there is a rightness, a clarity that guides our actions far more surely than all the ego's strategies. The transformations brought about by letting go, seen through the Jungian prism, are not mere adjustments. They touch the very fabric of our life experience, bringing lasting benefits that unfold far beyond solving a specific problem. They are the fruits of progress on the path of individuation. The first, and perhaps most precious of these benefits, is rediscovered peace. A deep peace emanating from within, from the progressive reconciliation of opposites within oneself. When we stop fighting our own shadow, when we accept what is, including our difficult emotions as messages from our psyche, an immense burden lifts. It's the calm that emerges when the ego is no longer in constant war with the unconscious, but learns to collaborate with it. This peace is not an absence of life, but a life lived from a more stable and unified inner center, the self. From this inner peace, a new way of relating to the world is born. When our psyche is less conflicted, we attract or co-create more harmonious experiences and relationships. Projections diminish. People and situations that once deeply disturbed us have less hold over us, because we have begun to integrate the aspects of our shadow that they mirrored back to us. The integrity we cultivate by being more aligned with our totality attracts more authentic relationships. Our radiance changes, and the world around us seems to reflect this new quality of being. Even more profoundly, letting go is a path of continuous personal transformation, a driving force for individuation. Inner change, the progressive integration of unconscious content, inevitably leads to outer change. By changing how we see ourselves and life, we don't just change our perception of events, we change how we respond to them, which alters their impact and trajectory. We develop a more enlightened, wiser, more liberating outlook. Challenges don't necessarily disappear, but our ability to navigate them with greater awareness and extract meaning for our growth increases exponentially. We discover an inner sovereignty, a strength that comes not from control, but from alignment with the self. The shadow, that part of us we repressed, which fueled our need for control, can be progressively acknowledged, and its energies constructively reoriented. By welcoming it, we reclaim considerable vital energy and become more whole, more human. Together, we've journeyed through the intricacies of control and the liberating paths of letting go, illuminated by Carl Jung's depth psychology. His work reminds us that to stop forcing, to stop exhausting ourselves in a struggle where the ego tries to dominate the entire psyche is the key, not only for things to start working, but also to rediscover an intimate and vibrant connection with our soul, with ourself. This isn't an easy path, as our egoic control habits are often deeply ingrained. It demands courage, the courage to explore our unconscious, to meet our shadow. It demands patience, the patience to learn to trust the life process and the messages from our psyche. It demands awareness, the awareness to observe our inner mechanisms without judgment, with the curiosity of an explorer of one's own inner world. The invitation today is simple, yet profound, to make yourself available to the totality of who you are, and thereby to life itself. To open a space within you for the new to emerge, for the creative solutions of the unconscious to surface, for the peace born of integration to take lasting root. It's an invitation to replace relentless effort with alignment with the self, fear with trust in your inner resources, constriction with the expansion of consciousness. If this message resonates with you, if you feel ready to explore this path of letting go further, and to activate the wisdom of your soul guided by the intuitions of your own psyche, I invite you to show it. Comment below. I choose trust and open myself to the wisdom of my psyche. It's a first step, a declaration of intent to yourself and to the depths of your being. Subscribe so you don't miss our future explorations into the mysteries of the psyche and the keys to profound well-being inspired by the great traditions of self-knowledge. And if you think this insight can light the way for someone else, share this video, this message. Remember, your true power doesn't lie in your ego's ability to control everything, but in your capacity to dialogue with your unconscious, to dance with the unexpected, to trust that subtle whisper within you, the voice of the self, which already knows the way. By stopping trying to force things, you lose nothing. You find yourself. And that's when everything truly begins to work, in the most beautiful and meaningful ways.